Hey Snapchat, no exercise bike this morning, no crocodiles, all day, Mark Suster taking over Justin Kahn. The topic all day is going to be failure. Failure at startups, how to deal with failure, how to deal with adversity. I'm also going to cover life as a venture capitalist, life as a VC. I run a VC fund in LA called Upfront Ventures. Stay tuned throughout the day. I'm going to have many special guests coming on. So I'm coming to you this morning from sunny Los Angeles. Actually, I'm in Santa Monica, arriving at work. This is the name of the fund, Upfront Ventures, and we invest nationally. We do about 50% of our investments in Southern California. Each of our funds is about $300 million. Out of that, we'll invest in about 35 companies per fund. First check size, usually $3 to $5 million, but we'll do checks as little as $500,000 or as much as $12 million in the first check. Why would a VC fund be based in Los Angeles? Well, indeed, why not? But seriously, aside from the fact that that's the ocean over there, LA is the fastest growing tech market in the country right now. It receives the second most funding of any market in the US. We graduate more engineers in LA than anywhere else in the United States. Our region actually has more top 25 engineering programs also than anywhere else in the United States. So LA is not so bad. If you ever come visit Upfront Ventures, you'll have to check out our multi-purpose room. We have an outdoor room with these kind of views in the middle of our deck. Arriving at the office space this morning, we have Becky here. Want to say hello?
Hi.
Walk into the office. Dory just got back from New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
How are those eyes? Let's see. Say hello to Snapchat. There's Stuart Lander. Got my partner over here, Greg Bettinelli. Want to say hello?
Good morning, Snapchat.
Anyway, Snapchat, I told you today I was going to talk about failure at a startup, so I'm going to spend most of my day with that theme. I built my first software company in 1999, and I made every mistake in the book. I raised too much money. I had a $16.5 million A round. I hired too quickly. I went from 0 to 129 employees in 18 months. We built 4 products simultaneously, and we launched in 5 countries in the first 2 years. I was on the front cover of the Financial Times. I was on the front cover of the top venture capital magazine in Europe. I was picked by Time magazine as one of the 3 hottest new companies. I was a really big deal until I wasn't. The problem is that having so much success in the press and with fundraising, you start to drink your own Kool-Aid. I started believing what everyone said about my company rather than looking at the underlying data. There was cognitive dissonance. And I fell prey to hubris. I was invited to dinner with the French president and was interacting with CEOs all over the world. Goldman Sachs was an investor, and they told me we were going to go public and be worth billions of dollars in the very near future. But by building 4 products simultaneously and not aligning product market fit, we spread our resources a mile wide and inches deep. And then it all came crashing down overnight. No one wanted to return my phone calls, no one wanted to buy software, and people were declaring the internet dead. I had to cut from 129 employees to 33 in 1 week. That still goes down as the worst day of my life. Staring friends in the face, looking at people in tears, and telling them they were out of a job. But what happened over the course of the next 5 years is we built a real company. And everything I learned in the next few years from the mistakes that I made in the first 2. In a way, I feel like I was a Depression-era child in the sense that I had lost everything, or seemingly lost everything, and I valued things more. This is why I often prefer second-time founders, because I feel like there's a certain realism in having lived through the hype curve. I want to describe that to you. You've got progress on the y-axis and time on the x-axis. Sometimes progress is followed by hype. When you start, you move really quickly up this curve of what you perceive as progress. First few points on the curve are very predictable. You start a company, you hire people, you raise dollars, you get a bunch of PR. The problem is that when the positive accolades come in from your friends, family, coworkers, parents, you start to feel a sense of your own success. And of course, from dollars in PR and a team, you often ship product, get customers, leading to more PR and often more dollars. So in the first phases of a company, you rise really rapidly along this progress curve, sometimes a hype curve that leads to a false sense of success. But almost every startup I've ever worked with has gone through the other side of this curve where progress seems to slow. The kind of things that manifest itself when you're hitting the other side of the curve, it can be any one of the following things. Employees quit, you get bad press, you find that initial bump of customers don't retain themselves. Maybe you had some dollars coming into your company from customers and maybe those orders have slowed. 2 other competitors launch and suddenly they're getting a bunch of press and people are now asking whether or not you're as good as they are. Your own investors are not proving as supportive as you thought they were going to be. Now you're 18 months into the company, your team is asking for pay increases, they're asking for new equity allocations, and frankly, you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt whether or not your product was good, your team was good, or whether you're the right stuff. These are really predictable occurrences and emotions in a startup, but because they don't get reported on, we think that we're having unnatural confidence lacking. That's why I like to talk about failure. All people have gone through failure, whether on specific incidences or as a company overall. Failure's normal. The question is, what do we learn from it? Does it make us stronger? Do we adjust? Do we lift our socks back up and get back out on the road? And again, for me, this is why I love seeing entrepreneurs who have gone through tough times, because resiliency is one of the most important attributes of a successful entrepreneur. When you get kicked in the face constantly and you have to come into work and keep your attitude strong and keep pushing forward when anyone else doesn't believe you, that's what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And the absolute truth is, no matter how big the company is, the people at the top are still dealing with that pressure. You think Dropbox, as successful as it is, isn't feeling stressed at the top end of the market and isn't getting market self-doubt? You think Instacart, Postmates, DoorDash aren't feeling the pressure of all of the competition in the market, all of the dollars spent on trying to win that huge battle? Would you want to be the CEO of Twitter right now? I love Twitter. Imagine how much stress it is at the top right now. The low point on this curve is called the trough of disillusionment. That is your low moment. Investors didn't show up with as much money as you'd hoped. You had to cut jobs, you had to cut scope, the press doesn't love you anymore, and every day you still have to wake up and dream. If you come out of this, you end up in a new normal, which you'll notice is nowhere near what the previous progress and hype curve was, but it's still success. It's about living to fight another day. It's about realizing that you need to do more with less and have different expectations for what success means. And sometimes, best will in the world, you end up still going down the failure route. It's just the product didn't work and you need to fail gracefully. Failing gracefully is about not being a quitter. It's about not leaving people in the lurch. Helping your employees make smooth transitions. Helping customers not feel like they were left holding the bag. Working with investors, making clear that you understand that you took their money even if you didn't make them money. I always said the fail fast mantra needs to fail fast. What I meant was I felt like we had a whole generation of entrepreneurs who thought it was okay to just blow through a bunch of money, and if it didn't work, quit, pivot, and move on quickly. I do believe in fail fast in the sense of testing and iterating products, and when they're not working, making tweaks to your approach. But I don't believe it gives you a license to be cavalier about people's careers, about customers, or certainly also about investors. Okay, I'm off to my first breakfast meeting of the day. I'm going to talk more about being a VC and failure throughout the day. Okay, so I'm on my way to breakfast with Rob Goldberg. He runs a company called Fresno. He's had many successful companies. He's going to talk. No hoverboards for me, strictly these guys on my way to breakfast in Santa Monica. Now, I've told you a little bit about how investors like me think about failure and why we like to judge adversity. I'd like to tell you how to judge a VC. Entrepreneurs often judge their investors by the successes they've had. But if I were doing reference checks, I do reference checks on failure. Trust me, every successful entrepreneur loves their investor. What you want to do is find out how investors act when you're not successful. Because most startups struggle, you're going to want to understand their ethics, their behavior, and how supportive they were in tough times. So when you do reference check investors to decide which ones you want to work with, if you have a choice, make sure to talk to companies that did not succeed.
Hey, I'm Rob Goldberg. I'm the founder and CEO of Fresno